Can you hear me? Can you hear me talking? So I'm currently at the University of New Mexico. So I went here for undergrad, and this is where I'm doing medical school currently. Sorry for the zip. So I was a biology and chemistry major. So I majored in biology and I minored in chemistry. And then I double majored in Spanish on top of that, but I'm a native speaker, so that Spanish degree was really easy to get for me. So yeah, I originally wanted to go into biochemistry, but I didn't get some prereqs done in time, so I wasn't able to, I wouldn't complete the biochemistry program in time to graduate in 4 years, which is what I wanted. So I just went ahead and switched to biology and chemistry, which is kind of the same thing, and I finished in 4 years. I actually chose to be a doctor when I was a junior in high school, between like sophomore and junior year in high school. I wanted to be a vet originally. Ever since I was 4 years old, I said I wanted to be a vet, and I pursued medicine kind of with that mindset. And it just kind of switched when I got into high school, and I'm so glad it did. So I was about 17, 18 when I decided I wanted to go to medical school. Not like a lot of people that know from the time they're tiny little kids that they want to go to med school. Um, so there's not a pre-med major here where I'm from. Here at the University of Mexico. So I don't know where you're going. I don't know if you're here in the United States, but you don't, for medical school, doesn't really care if you do like a pre-med program. What they care about is for you to do really well in certain predetermined undergrad science courses. I think you probably know that. So like they want to see that you do good in, I think 2 semesters of biology, and definitely genetics, maybe be one of them. So they want you to do genetics, they want you to do physics, they want you to do chemistry for sure, so the general chemistries and the organic chemistries, and then they want you to do well in a biochem course. I think those are most of the like science prereqs, and then you also have to usually take some sort of high level math like calculus, and I think that's it. Just make sure you do well in your prereq science courses. I'm gonna make a video where I recommend a few courses pre-meds take on top of the required pre-med courses. There's some recommended ones, and I'm just gonna tell you right now, like you should definitely take pharmacology, immunology, if you do have the choice to take that class in undergrad, I would definitely take those if you plan to go into medical school because they helped me so much in my first block. Oh, I've heard of programs like that. So I actually applied to one of these programs when when I was a senior in high school. So we also had a BMD program here at UNM. I wasn't accepted. I was, I think, like 28th or 27th on the wait list, but that wait list did not move one spot, of course. I think that's awesome. The school here does require for once you finish the first 4 years of undergrad that you take the MCAT and meet the minimum to matriculate into medical school. Um, in 6 years. 6 years, that's awesome. So the one here is like the 4 years of undergrad, and then you do your 4 years of medical school on top of that. It's not a 6 year program. That sounds like an accelerated program. And I think what's his name, Dr. Mike, is that the same program he went to? I think you probably know who he is. He's a really famous pediatrician. Is that like New York or something like that? I'm not sure, but yes, I've heard of that 6 year program. That's awesome. And then I think those B&B programs, like they offer you a lot of support, and sometimes I think they might even offer you scholarship to like do all of undergrad for free. And the college isn't free for the BMD years here, the medical school, I mean, but the 4 years of undergrad were free for them. They got their tuition paid. Oh, in Kansas. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I never applied to a Kansas school, so I wouldn't really know about it. But I think it's a great option if you can get into a program like that. That would be awesome. And I actually had the opportunity to matriculate into the BEMD around 2 years in. So the students that dropped out of the BEMD, if because I had applied previously, I could reapply in 2 years to try and take up a spot 2 years later. I interviewed and then um, I rejected the offer because I felt that I could get into medical school without getting into the BAMD. That was a little bit of my ego on my part, and I got into medical school 1 year later because of it, but I would not do anything different. I loved the clinic where I volunteered at, and I loved doing the grades and my job for that gap year that I had off, and it really prepared me for studying constantly right now. Um, it sucks that I started a year later, but I don't think I was ready a year ago, so I'm really happy it took an extra year for me to get into medical school because I got a lot of things under control in that time. Helped me mature a little bit too. So I am barely in my first year of medical school, so I started medical school. So that first video was like 3 months ago. I started med school. Um, so I won't start residency for another 4 years, basically. Like I'm right at the beginning of medical school. Oh, hey Chris, glad you're here. So I definitely think medical school is worth it. This is awesome, guys. I know you guys are barely in high school, and all the other undo sirs is in high school. Um, it took a lot of work, and I failed a lot of times, and I got rejected from medical school once. I got a crappy MCAT score the first time. It's definitely worth it. Definitely. I don't know what else I can tell you. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm so happy to be here. And it's awesome to be able to learn all of this. Like, we're learning so much every day. It's awesome. I love it. So you can get kicked out of medical school. So of course, so if you fail a block, you won't get kicked out. So some schools allow you to like remediate. Like if you fail one or two blocks during medical school, you're at the end. Most schools that you take like a test to see if you would pass that block, like on step one, like an NBME exam. And if you pass it, then you pass the course. But the medical school here does not let you if you fail more than two, then you have to repeat the year, and they only let you repeat once. So if you fail again to more than two blocks the second time out, then you probably will get kicked out. And then the other one is professionalism, um, and of course ethics, right? So if you're not treating patients correctly, or if you just do something that could really hurt the medical school's image or something like that, then I think you can probably get kicked out. But I wouldn't worry too much about getting kicked out as long as you keep a straight head and you do your schoolwork like everybody else. I think you'll be okay. All right, Christopher. So what do you mean by non-traditional? So you're not like a science major? Oh, one second. I think. Oh no, I'm not gonna get kicked out of my room. So sorry, I thought they were gonna kick me out of the room because I it was reserved and nobody was here, so I came in. But I reserved it starting at 7. What do you mean by non-traditional, Christopher? Then I can kind of help you answer. I can kind of give you some suggestions. Okay, respiratory therapy. So I think that's very applicable to going to medical school. So I applied to medical school twice, Chris. So I didn't get in my first time. All right. Um, I didn't do very well in my MCAT the first time I took it, and then I had a 1 year, my sophomore year in college. I did really bad on some of my courses. Uh, Before starting medical school to prepare me, so I think you just have to develop good study habits, and then once you get into medical school, you're going to be thrown into the fire, and you have to find good study habits. You won't have a choice, really. So I can't really like explain it unless you get into medical school. Then you'll understand like, holy cow, this is so much information. Um, but to prepare me, I think just enjoy, work towards your goals consistently, constantly every day. When I was studying for the MCAT, it sucked because I was working full time, and then I took the MCAT again, and I did much better that second time. So just keeping a straight head, focusing on why you're doing this, and make sure. I don't know if you did like the undergrad prereqs that you have to do to apply to medical school. So there's a let me write it down real quick here. So the MSAR. So the MSAR is a really good resource for pre-meds and undergrads. It shows you like the minimum GPA and MCAT score that some schools took for the last class. You do have to pay for it, but I think you can see some information without accessing it. But also, if you go to each medical school's website, they'll tell you what science prereqs they require you to take, and then which ones are recommended. My MCAT book was understandable. So I don't know if you guys watched my YouTube video where I'm giving away my MCAT book. So I got two sets of MCAT review books. So those MCAT review books are mostly for content review. They really help you get the content, like just understanding the physics, the science, all those things. Uh, if it's not already in your brain, my number one advice for taking the MCAT is to do a lot of practice questions. I think that's probably the best way to get better at anything. That's kind of what I use in medical school too. Just do a bunch of practice questions so that you can apply the knowledge you know, because rote memory is will only get you so far. And especially in the field of medicine where there's so many factors going on at the same time, you have to be able to build up and reverse and go forward and sideways. And that's just medicine. It's awesome. Sorry, my eyes are really dry. Oh yeah, no problem, Christopher. Thank you for being here. Make sure to do really well in that OChem and biochemistry. And physics, I did really well in physics. I never took physics in high school, but I feel like it's very common sensey. So if you have some good common sense and you take the time to learn the equations, you'll be all right in physics. So medical school starts early morning, so I usually have class at 8. 8 to 12 is usually lecture. Right now it's a little bit different because we're doing anatomy lab. So on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we have anatomy lab for 3 hours from 9 to 12. Um, but on top of the anatomy lab, our professors are giving us lectures that they're not physically lecturing, they're giving us the notes, so we are responsible for knowing the information on top of the anatomy lab. Jack, I'm not sure I don't really understand your question. Corpses of bums? You mean like the cadavers that we're currently dissecting? I think I'm super grateful for those people that donated their bodies and the families that allowed them to donate their bodies so that I could learn med school. Yeah, cadavers. So a lot of people really don't like the cadavers. Like I said, I'm so grateful to the people for allowing me, for donating their bodies. It's an awesome way to learn, and you, I'm just really grateful. I'm really grateful. OVO, what's a good GPA to get into med school? So uh, most people will tell you that a 3.5 GPA minimum is required to get into med school. I will tell you that mine was less. I'm not going to tell you guys how low my GPA was, but it was less than 3.5. So that is a myth. If you guys have a lower GPA, you guys can make it up with an awesome MCAT score. But what really helped me was my awesome extracurricular and shadowing and volunteer work. So I started shadowing when I was a between my freshman and sophomore year of undergrad. So I shadowed at the same clinic for 4 years before I applied to med school. Then the second time I kept going, so I had 5 years of clinical experience before getting into med school. And I think that's what helped me offset my lower GPA and of course my MCAT as well. But yeah, yeah, no problem, Bobo. Um, no, high school, they don't, I mean, when I filled out my med school applications, they didn't ask anything about high school grades. If you did take college courses during high school, then you will have to add those onto your transcript, and the grade does count that way. But they don't ask for your ACT or SAT. So that's why I recommend you guys look at that MSAR on dosers. Each school has a minimum MCAT score that they like to receive the application or submit your application. If it's lower than that, then they'll automatically reject it. If it's higher than that, then they'll take a look at your GPA, extracurriculars, your primary application. And if they like you, then they'll invite you for a secondary. If they don't like that primary application, they'll reject it even if you did meet the minimum requirements. But the MSAR shows the average MCAT score for the class before you. So that's a really good resource to use to see if you look at certain schools, they some have higher MCAT average MCAT scores and some have lower, of course. Christopher, I actually feel doctors are so I know what you mean. People, it's definitely not about the money. Okay, you don't work this hard for for money. Okay, so I am thinking of going into one of the specialties that has probably one of the lowest salaries out of all physicians. And that's okay because if you're making 200 grand a year, that is still a ton of money. You're still in like the top, what, I don't know, top 1% of most salaries of like here in the United States. So that's my answer. I don't really know. I don't. It definitely is something to take into consideration for some people. And luckily, my med school isn't as expensive as um, other schools. And hopefully, I get a scholarship here soon that'll make it even less expensive. So I anticipate being in debt like under 150,000, where average is like 200, and then a lot of YouTubers you watch are like 300,000 over in debt. I don't expect to be that much in debt, so I guess maybe because my med school isn't as expensive, it's not really a consideration as much for me right now. It might be later though. I want to talk about my car on Dessers. So it's a 2017 Honda Civic Si. I had a red truck before, so I lived 45 minutes away from university in undergrad, across some mountains. And the truck I had didn't have any air conditioner. It didn't have any a heater, and it wasn't four-wheel drive. So I commuted an hour back and forth every single day for college. And in the winter, my windshield was literally freezing over sometimes, and I would have to stop on the side of the road. It was awful. And as soon as I got a full-time job, I got that car because I couldn't deal with it anymore. It sucked, but it was an awesome experience. Yeah, Christopher, I hear you. So the way student loans work, I don't know if you're in med school or where you are. Oh wait, no, were you the non-traditional applicant? Yes. So I don't know if you have student loans from undergrad. So the way in med school works, so you get you get like an interest rate for each year, right? And at the end of the 4 years, you consolidate all 4 years into one, and average the interest rates on those, and that's the interest rate you will pay on that big lump sum. The interest is what's scary. I totally agree. So I did like a calculation, and if I took out $100,000 in like, I think what was it? I think I might have calculated 100,000. So over after graduating 14 years later, I would end up paying 133,000. So that's 33% more money. For every dollar I spend, I have to pay back a dollar and 33 cents. So yes, I see why you're scared, Chris. Totally scared. Miles per gallon on my car right now are 32 miles per gallon. When I take long trips, the mile per gallon this last time, I actually took a picture of it. Let me pull it up. Let me see if I can show you guys. It was absolutely ridiculous when I went up to Angel Fire. My miles per gallon was a whopping. So I took a picture of it. Can you see it? I don't think you guys can see it very well. But it went up to 55 miles per gallon. That's crazy. I'll go probably for another 6 minutes of questions. Been on for about half an hour. This time goes by fast answering questions, actually. It's really fun though. I'm glad I get to answer questions you guys had. This is honestly the first time I stream. It was basically a test, and it's awesome that you guys came on to watch me. Thank you guys for being here. When are you planning to get married? That's a good question. So when I first started going out with Serena, I told her I would not marry until I had my medical degree. And now you kind of like, I kind of wanted to push it up a little bit maybe, but she still doesn't want to, just because we don't live together, and she wants to have a full-time job and she wants her career to kick off. So um, I'm not sure when I'll get married on those. Thank you, Chris. Good luck. Make your own luck, actually. Like I said, I don't believe in good luck, but make your own luck. I'll be here if you have any questions. Go ahead and comment on one of my videos or something, and I usually answer all the questions on those videos. So, no problem. Thanks for asking me questions. So we have our white coat ceremony before we start medical school. It's like a Yeah, so we already had our white coat ceremony. It was an awesome feeling. My family was there, my close family, and you like really, your preceptor puts on your white coat, and it's like, all right, you have been accepted into the health profession, and it's time to be a professional. It's time to work hard and save some lives. It's awesome. So medical school is 4 years. So I did 4 years of college, and then I'm doing another 4 years of medical school. Oh, my little sister just came on. Um, since so we are in between what are called blocks. So I finished my first block. That was 11 weeks. That was a long 11 weeks, and then um, we have like if we finish Tuesday, we have to be back at class on Monday. So our breaks are really small. For Christmas, I'll get like 10 days in the winter, but I have to be back January 2nd. And our breaks are really small. Hey, how's it going, Ruben? Did you have doubts about making it into med school? I had a lot of doubts. So I got rejected my first year OVO, and that really sucked. What really hurt the most is whenever I saw all the applicants getting like on Facebook and Instagram, them getting their white coats. That's when it really hit me. But it motivated me to keep going, keep a straight head, and study harder, study for the MCAT, stay focused, and here I am. And definitely here in med school, I mean, you are surrounded by super intelligent people. It's awesome. And I mean, when you're surrounded by this many intelligent people, by 100 super smart people, I mean, you have to yeah, you have to go up to that level, right? You don't have a choice. Either um, it's just it comes naturally. I don't think you'll struggle once you're in here. So I only speak two languages, Andosers. I know Spanish and English. Spanish was my first language. I am Mexican. So I've been to Mexico multiple times in my life. I haven't really been to any other countries other than that. Um, yeah. All right, guys. Any more questions? It's a good question, Andosers. So I learned, so I'm a native Spanish speaker, right? I decided to major in Spanish because I wasn't as good at writing it, okay? It's the only language I spoke at home, but at school, um, I mean, everything's in English, right? So I never really got that. Thank you, Oval, for being here. I'll be here. So if you have any questions. So I didn't really learn how to write Spanish grammatically correct, I guess. So that's why I decided to major in Spanish so that I could learn that skill and just refine it a little bit. So I initially wanted to become a vet. Like I said earlier, I decided I want to be a vet when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and that just stayed until I actually got a job at a veterinary clinic as a veterinary assistant. Um, and then my mind changed and I started pursuing human medicine. I enjoyed it more. There's more emotions. I like the human connection, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Yes, I am a country boy under sirs. I'm actually wearing my boots right now. People in class ask me that all the time. I wear my boots all the time, basically everywhere. And it's just a part of who I am. All right, guys. Any more questions? I'll give you guys 17 seconds. All right, thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, just comment my other videos, ask me some questions there. Follow me on Instagram, ask me. Instagram's a great way to ask me questions because my phone's on me all the time. And thanks for being here, guys. I'll see you later. Bye, Angelica.